What is up, everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we will be reacting to NASCAR's worst championship hangovers. Now, I have no idea what I'm getting myself into here. This was requested by one of my Patreon members, so I'm looking forward to it, and I'm just going to shut up and we'll get straight into it.
We reach the end of a season and we see the driver of the year hoist a championship trophy. It signifies that that driver is the one to beat. Sometimes it's years of trying and climbing to the top of the hill. Others quickly reach it, maybe marking the start of a dynasty. Or maybe, in these examples, the beginning of a major hangover.
Oh no.
This happens all over sports. One team or player has a great year, it becomes the champion in their respective
And then
sports,
next year they just have
only
a
to
big
snap
fat
back to reality
downfall.
and sometimes fall flat on their face the following year.
Yeah.
And in NASCAR, this scenario has happened far too many times. So let's take a look at some of NASCAR's worst title defenses. Kyle Busch 2020. Kyle Busch's Cup Series career at the moment at RCR has not been a fun one. But many would argue that the regression of Rowdy Busch began in the 2020 season. This is odd considering he won his second Cup Series championship the year prior. It was a year that had the dreadful 550 high downforce package being used at virtually all tracks, and Kyle was the most outspoken critic in plenty of situations, showing his displeasure, whether it was in interviews or in-car radio. But that first year he was neck and neck with his JGR teammate Martin Truex Jr. for the title, alongside Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin. He ended the year with 5 wins, 17 top 5s, 27 top 10s, over 1,500 laps led, and an astounding 8.9 average finish.
Wow.
So heading into 2020, many viewed
statistics.
Kyle as the new face of NASCAR, following Jimmie Johnson, who was set to retire that year. But then something else decided to not only become the face of NASCAR, but the face of the world.
Yep.
The Italian government tonight put the entire country on lockdown.
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
Sometimes I feel like this was only like last year, like after COVID, it's really just frazzled my brain, and I just think that there's only been like a year in between.
As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, NASCAR introduced a major change to how a race weekend would go for that season. Instead of having 2 to 3 hour practice sessions plus qualifying on a weekend, now it was to show up on Sunday and race. No practice and qualifying.
Oh wow!
Structure that
I didn't know that.
Cars on track before
That's
the
insane.
Race. It
no
was a
practice.
massive drawback for Kyle not having any of those practice sessions, and it showed in the performance. From a guy that had 4 wins or more since 2015. He only went to victory lane 1 time, and it took him to race 34 of 36 in a fuel mileage race at Texas to make that happen. He entered the playoffs as the 14th seed, whereas a year prior, he was the regular season champion. Total inconsistency from start to finish from Kyle. In some stretch of races, he would be up front, like at both Bristol races, in which he led more than 100 laps in each race. And then other races where he would finish near the top 20, either self-inflicted or just bad luck. He ended the year with only 14
at this
top
point,
5s
I think
and
it's bad
20
luck.
top 10s, which the last
Everything
time he had
literally
records
happens
that
to him
low
every
was in
single race.
2014, and only led 516 laps. He led more laps in 2015 than 2020, and that was with 11 races less due to injury, and had an average finish of 13.8. And since that year, it's only gotten worse. Before, we expected Kyle to win at least 3 or more races per year. Now, in 2024, we would be surprised just to see him win anything.
Yeah,
Dale Earnhardt, 1992. In the late 80s and early 90s, Dale Earnhardt was not only NASCAR's most popular driver, but also its most dominating driver in that era. From 1986 to 1994, Dale won 6 championships, 48 wins, 139 top 5s, 190 top 10s, and 264 starts. And on top of that, had an average finish of 10.3 or better between those years.
Oh wow.
Well, all except 1 year.
What year?
1992.
Oh,
Dale won the
of course,
last 2
that's the year we're talking about.
1990 and 1991. So it made sense to think that he would be a championship contender once again.
Yeah, makes sense.
But that was the opposite of what would transpire.
Oh great.
It was
he had a big fat hangover.
Probably because his crew chief at the time, Kirk Shelmerdine, was in the process of leaving the team to become a driver. Or RCR not getting around the radial tires that were being used for the first time that year at every race by Goodyear. Or maybe how dominating Ford was that saw them win all but 13 races, including the championship. Or a combination of those things. Regardless, Dale was not good.
His old foot just
only
crazy.
Won 1 time in the Coca-Cola 600, only 6 top 5s, which was the lowest amount in his career then, 15 top 10s, and a 14.9 average finish. the lowest for him since
14.9 average
1983,
finish, and he
finished
did
an
like
incredibly
have like a
poor
10
12 points place
average finish.
which ties 1982 for his worst points finish in his 22-year career. It's incredible when you look at it because the following year in 93, with new crew chief Andy Petrie, Earnhardt was back to championship form, winning 6 times, including the title.
That's good that it was only 1 year though for him.
Year.
Next year he
Who
bounced
knows,
back.
if things went right, he
Kyle
could have
Busch,
had
however,
5 in a row. Jimmie Johnson wouldn't be
Again,
the only one to
he ain't
have
got
that
any luck.
record. Brad Keselowski, 2013.
2013.
Brad Keselowski had an interesting route to the top of NASCAR ladder after driving under his family team before
God, look
being
how
picked
young
up
he
by
looks
Dale
there.
Earnhardt Jr. and Junior Motorsports. Although his driving style rubbed some people the wrong way, you couldn't deny that he had talent, winning some races for his Xfinity team before making a few cup starts for Hendrick Motorsports in 2008 and 2009, including winning his very first cup race at Talladega in the spring of '09 driving for Phoenix Racing. But while under the impression he would take over the number 5 car for the recently departed Casey Mears, Hendrick Motorsports elected to take Mark Martin, and thus Brad decided to leave the Chevrolet banner for a new team. Enter Team Penske, driving full-time in both Xfinity and Cup. He won the 2010 Xfinity Series title, but his maiden season in Cup was disappointing to say the least, as he would end up finishing
Oh my
25th
goodness
in
me,
points.
you went
In
over.
2011, he was promoted to the team's flagship car, the number 2 Miller Lite Dodge, and had a breakout year, winning 3 races and finishing 5th in points. The following year, he lit up the scene in 2012.
I like
5
that blue.
wins, which tied for a series high, 13 top 5s, 23 top 10s, and a 10.1 average finish, which was the best of all drivers, that culminated in a thrilling championship battle with then 5-time champion Jimmie Johnson. While the two battled neck and neck from the beginning of the season, ultimately, Brad will prevail and take home his first Cup title in just his 3rd season, and earning Team Penske their first Cup Series championship.
That is
The
crazy.
following year, however, was a
Didn't
big
take him long,
hangover
did it?
for him and the team. The biggest change was the team's transition from driving with Dodge for 10 years to driving Ford, a manufacturer that they had previously worked with.
Oh, that's always a
Keselowski
risque
opened up the
move, isn't it?
2013
Changing
season with 4
manufacturer.
straight top 5 finishes, including a 4th place finish in the Daytona 500, despite being caught up in 2 crashes, and had 8 top 10s in the first 9 races. But in the 2013 Texas Spring Race, Keselowski's season started to unravel. His car and teammate Joey Logano's car each failed pre-race inspections due to an issue with the car's rear end housings.
Oh, that's not
Keselowski was
good.
able to start the race for his original qualifying position as his car cleared inspection as driver introductions were ending, while Logano was forced to start from the back of the field because he didn't pass inspection in time to line up in the starting grid. After the race, Keselowski told members of the news media that he felt that Penske teams were being targeted by NASCAR. On Wednesday, NASCAR announced penalties.
But also, if your
related to the
car
rear
doesn't
housing
fit in with the
infraction.
regulations,
Keselowski's
is
crew
it
chief, Paul
targeting
Wolf,
them?
car chief Jerry Kelly,
Or
team
is it
engineer
just
Brian
following the
Wilson,
rules?
and Penske competition
Where's the line
director
here?
were all suspended for the next 6 races, including the non-points All-Star race. Wolf was also fined $100,000, and Keselowski was
$100,000.
docked 25 driver points. Identical penalties were also handed down to all the people in the same positions on Logano's team. From race 9 to race 26 of the season, he only finished in the top 5 3 times and had an average finish of 19.4. He did lead a race high of 142 laps at the regular season finale at Richmond, but it was not enough, and he would end up missing the playoffs, becoming just the 2nd driver to win the championship and miss the playoffs the following year. He was able, however, to finally win a race 31 of 36 at Charlotte, but would end the year extremely disappointing to his championship season the year prior. Only 9 top 5s and 16 top 10s with his win and an average finish of 14.9. He would pick it up the following year with 6 wins, 5th in
Not
points,
great.
and pissing off half of the grid.
Actually, it's not terrible.
But
If you've
with
got, like,
that in mind, 2013
grid of,
remains
like,
one of
30,
the worst title
35
defenses
cars.
in NASCAR's modern era.
not that bad,
Jimmie
is it?
Johnson, 2011. Jimmie Johnson capped
Like,
off
if
an
you'd
impossible
said
task, winning 5 consecutive
that,
titles
you know,
from
for
2006
F1,
to 2010.
your
So,
average
of course, the
finish was
question
14th,
could
I'd be like,
Johnson
ooh,
continue his
because there's only
domination
20
in
cars on the
2011
grid. But
for a 6th in a
NASCAR,
row?
there's like
Well, no, not even
double
close.
and more of
Now,
that.
for
So.
any driver, this will be viewed as a good season. But at this time, 2011 was statistically Johnson's worst performance to date. He only won 2 times, which was the lowest amount he won in a season at that time. Even his rookie year, he won 3 races. Only 14 top 5s and 21 top 10s.
In his
with an
rookie year, he won
11.9
3
average
races.
finish.
That is mad.
Good for any driver, but just coming off of a 5 in a row streak was uncharacteristic for the 48 car. In that year's playoffs, following his 2nd win of the season at Kansas, Johnson sat 3rd in points, only 4 points behind Carl Edwards, and everyone thought Johnson would do it again. However, following a crash at Charlotte that saw him finish 34th, his final 5 races in the playoffs had him finish
Ruined. Oh my
26th
God,
at
that was a heavy
Talladega,
impact there.
2nd at Martinsville, 14th at Texas and Phoenix, and capped the season with the 32nd place finish with mechanical problems at Homestead. Tony Stewart, 2006. We talked about Brad Keselowski being the second driver to win the Cup Series title and miss the playoffs in his title defense. Well, the first one goes to the Indiana native Tony Stewart. In 2005, his season was known as a Summer of Smoke. In the
Summer of
that
Smoke,
year,
why
from
did he
race
like
15
crash
at
out a
Michigan
lot?
to race 27 at New Hampshire, the first race of the playoffs, Stewart racked up 5 wins, including the Pepsi 400 at Daytona and the most popular win of the year, the 2005 Brickyard 400. The Indiana Hoosiers' first win at the Speedway was also known for climbing fences to celebrate with the crowd. On top of that, in those 13 races, he finished in the top
literally
5
climbed the
10
fence.
times,
Okay, great.
and his finish was no worse than 8th place. He was ranked the #1 seed and was put in a head-to-head battle with Jimmie Johnson, but while the 48 struggled in the second half of the playoffs, Stewart kept the consistency at a high from start to finish and won his second Cup Series title. For 2006, however, Stewart had a big roller coaster of a season.
Did he?
In the regular season, he only had 2 wins. The first happened at Martinsville at race 6 and at
Not
race
the loose
17,
wheel.
going back-to-back at Daytona in July. But his season was marred in controversy and inconsistency.
Why controversy?
Being involved in numerous on- and off-track incidents like in the Daytona 500.
On
he
and
basically
off-track
tried to kill
incidents.
Matt Kenseth. And then later in the
What has he
summer
been
on
doing?
lap 31
Scrapping?
of the Pennsylvania 500 at Pocono, Stewart was squeezed against the wall by Clint Bowyer. Obviously not being happy about the situation, Stewart responded by waving his hand in anger, then purposefully hitting Bowyer's car. This contact sent Bowyer spinning down the
I
front
find
straight,
that so
where
funny
he
that they
collided
do
with
that in
Carl
NASCAR. They
Edwards.
just
Stewart was promptly held
get
1 lap
angry
by
and
NASCAR
want to get
for rough
revenge, so
driving.
they just take
Stewart
the driver
also
out.
drove a good portion of the season in pain. He suffered a shoulder injury due to 2 heavy crashes in both the Xfinity and Cup race at Charlotte. So bad to the point that Ricky Rudd had to fill in as a relief driver during the Dover race weekend. But for 2006, he had an average finish of 15th, 3 DNFs, 10 top
3
5s, and only
DNFs.
4 pure
Great.
top 10s. All that compiled in Stewart missing the playoffs by 16
Oh no, I
points.
feel sorry for that
However,
car
in the
that
final
just
10
got
races of
collected.
2006, it was not bad by any means. 3 wins, a 10.6 average finish with 5 top 5s, and finished 11th in points, the first one out of the playoffs. Now on paper, it doesn't sound like a bad year, but to be the first driver in history to win the championship and miss the playoffs the next year is by no means good, thus counting this as one of NASCAR's worst title defenses.
Oh.
I mean, it doesn't matter how you look at it.
That's gotta
Winning the
be
title
so
one
sad
year
if
and not
that's
even
like
making the
your
top 10 to
statistic.
next is a bad year regardless.
One of the worst
And those
title
are some of the drivers
defenses.
with horrible
You don't want to go
NASCAR
from
title
winning championship
defenses.
to
What did you think of the video?
being
And tell me
known
in
as
the comment
that.
section down below.
Yeah, that was a good video. I didn't know about any of those championships. So it was a good little video to dive into. Who was talking about that? There was Carl Busch. Again, I feel like that has just turned into how unlucky he is now. I don't know. I mean, I've only been watching for 1 season. So is it his driving? I don't know. But literally every single race, he seems to get collected in some sort of mess, whether that be his own or someone else's. The one that Dale had, it wasn't so bad because I think you could maybe say it was more to do with the fact that someone in his team was leaving, and then once they had a new crew chief the next year, he was back on it, so it didn't last very long. But then the Jimmie Johnson one and the Tony Stewart one were a bit depressing. But yeah, that was a really good video. So thank you to my Patreon members for requesting this video. And with that being said, if you have any other videos that you'd like me to react to, drop them in the comments. I'm working my way through everybody's suggestions at the moment. If you did want to check out any of my other socials or become a Patreon member and get early access to videos like this or top priority over your suggestions, then you can do all of that down below. And if you want to become a member on this channel and receive exclusive perks, you can also do that by hitting the join button down below. But I hope you enjoyed today's reaction, and I will catch you next time for the next one. Bye.